Every ride begins with laughter, flashing lights, and the promise of thrill. But beneath the steel cables and spinning arms lies a hidden danger few ever see coming. Excitement can turn into chaos, screams into silence, and fun into tragedy. These are the moments when amusement parks become scenes of horror and survival is never guaranteed. Number 1. The day speed turned into silence. On a clear Southern California afternoon, September 15, 2009, Knott's Berry Farm felt exactly how an amusement park should. Laughter echoed through the midway cameras flashed, and the crowd gathered around one of the park's most iconic attractions, Accelerator. A ride famous for launching riders from zero to highway speed in just seconds, straight up a towering steel track. 12-year-old Kyle Wheeler and his father Russell took the front row. It was supposed to be a moment they'd remember forever for all the right reasons. As the countdown ended, the launch system roared to life. But just seconds after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. A critical launch cable designed to withstand extreme force suddenly failed. In an instant, the train lurched, momentum vanished, and the ride rolled back toward the station. What should have been a smooth burst of speed turned into chaos. Guests nearby froze, unsure of what they were witnessing, as the coaster returned, broken and silent. Emergency crews rushed in within minutes. Kyle was transported to the hospital with severe injuries, while his father escaped with minor wounds. What investigators later uncovered was even more unsettling. The cable showed advanced metal fatigue, and maintenance checks had not followed the manufacturer's recommended schedule. Warnings were there, but they were missed. Kyle would endure multiple surgeries and months of recovery. For his family, the thrill of that afternoon was replaced by a lifetime of consequences. Accelerator would eventually reopen, rebuilt, and reinforced. But for those who remember that day, it stands as a chilling reminder: even the most powerful machines can fail without warning. And when they do, the line between excitement and disaster disappears in seconds. Number 2. Hanging above the crowd. On the warm evening of August 14, 2021, families filled Lagoon amusement park for one last ride before nightfall. Lights flickered on music drifted through the air, and the sky ride glided quietly above it all. Unlike the park's towering coasters, this attraction promised calm, a slow journey suspended nearly 50 feet above the ground. Among the riders was a 32-year-old man traveling alone. At first, nothing seemed out of place. But midway across the park, heads began to turn. The man was no longer sitting. He was hanging from the side of the chair, one hand gripping the safety bar, his body suspended above the concrete below. At first, some thought it was a stunt. Phones came out. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Then the mood shifted. Shouts erupted from below. Hold on, as the chair continued moving forward, carrying him farther with every second. There was no emergency stop, no warning, just the slow, unstoppable motion of the ride. Then, without drama or hesitation, he lost his grip. The fall silenced the park. Paramedics arrived within minutes and rushed him to the hospital in critical condition. 2 days later, he died from his injuries. Investigators confirmed the ride had not malfunctioned. It had passed inspection that very morning. No mechanical failure, no broken restraint, only unanswered questions. Police ruled the incident unintentional, but uncertainty lingered. How did it happen? Why did no one stop the ride? The footage spread online, replayed again and again, a man hanging calmly in the air as panic grows below him. For decades, the Sky Ride had carried millions safely. That night changed everything. It proved that danger doesn't always come from speed or force. Sometimes it comes quietly drifting overhead until one moment turns a peaceful ride into an unforgettable tragedy. Number 3. The pendulum that never came back. On the evening of July 14, 2019, the atmosphere at Canary Amusement Park was electric. Music echoed across the water lights reflected off the lake, and families gathered around the park's most intimidating attraction, the Discovery Ride. A massive pendulum designed to swing riders high into the sky, delivering fear, laughter, and relief in equal measure. 31 people were strapped into their seats as the ride began its slow ascent. Each swing grew higher, faster, louder. Spectators watched as the circular gondola carved wide arcs through the air. Then, at exactly the moment it reached full motion, a sharp metallic crack cut through the noise. In a split second, the unthinkable happened. The main steel arm holding the gondola failed. The entire passenger section collapsed mid-swing, slamming violently into the structure below. Screams vanished, replaced by stunned silence. Dust and debris filled the air as the ride crumpled into twisted metal. Emergency crews rushed in as chaos took over. 2 young riders were killed instantly. Dozens more were pulled from the wreckage and rushed to hospitals with severe injuries. Witnesses described the scene as unreal, one moment a thrill ride, the next a disaster zone. Investigators later determined the failure was caused by long-term metal fatigue. The steel shaft had been weakening for months, possibly years, without detection. Despite claims of regular inspections, critical stress testing had never been done. The Discovery Ride was dismantled soon after its remains left as evidence. The tragedy sparked nationwide outrage and renewed debate over amusement park safety in India. For the families involved, however, no investigation could undo what happened. That night, excitement lasted seconds, but the consequences would last forever. Number 4. When the pendulum snapped. On the night of July 31st, 2025, the mountain air in Taif was cool and calm as crowds gathered at Green Mountain Park. The park glowed under artificial lights, laughter echoing across the hills. Among the attractions was the 360 Big Pendulum, a towering ride built to swing riders higher and faster with every pass. As the pendulum began its motion, excitement built. Each swing carried the gondola farther into the air, edging closer to a full rotation. Screams of thrill filled the night. Then, just seconds before reaching peak speed, everything went wrong. A sudden snap cut through the noise. The massive structure failed mid-motion. Steel gave way, and the passenger section collapsed downward, slamming onto the platform below. Panic exploded across the crowd. Some guests ran, others froze, unable to process what they had just seen. The ride that promised adrenaline had turned into a scene of pure shock. Emergency responders arrived quickly. 23 people were injured, 3 of them critically. By chance alone, the gondola landed relatively flat, a detail authorities believe prevented the incident from becoming even deadlier. The park was immediately shut down, and officials sealed off the area for investigation. Early reports pointed to possible maintenance issues, design flaws, or manufacturing defects. While the investigation remains ongoing, one thing was clear: this was not a minor malfunction. It was a catastrophic failure of a machine trusted with human lives. That night, Green Mountain Park fell silent. What remained was twisted metal, unanswered questions, and a chilling reminder that even modern thrill rides can fail without warning, turning a peaceful evening into a moment no one there will ever forget. Number 5. The ride that spun out of control. On the afternoon of February 13, 2021, families packed a fairground in Shiaoyang, to celebrate the Lunar New Year. Colorful lights flashed, music played, and children laughed as crowds gathered around one of the park's most popular attractions, the flying chairs. A classic swing ride designed to lift riders into the air and spin them gently above the ground. At 3:40 p.m., the ride started like it had countless times before. Chains tightened, seats rose. But almost immediately, witnesses sensed something was wrong. The rotation accelerated faster than usual. An alarm rang out, sharp and unnatural, cutting through the festive noise. Then everything collapsed. The central swing assembly suddenly detached from its axis. In a violent instant, the entire structure slammed into the ground. Metal shattered, chairs flew, riders and nearby onlookers were thrown across the pavement as screams replaced celebration. What had been a moment of joy became total chaos. Emergency crews rushed in within minutes. 16 people were injured, including several bystanders who had been standing too close. 3 victims were listed in critical condition. The fairground fell silent as sirens filled the air, and the injured were carried away on stretchers. Investigators later confirmed the cause: a faulty control switch. The malfunction sent the ride into uncontrolled acceleration until the structure could no longer withstand the force. Although the park claimed the ride had passed safety checks just weeks earlier, authorities shut the entire operation down immediately. Several staff members were detained for questioning. No one died that day, but many lives were changed. Videos of the crash spread rapidly online, freezing the moment excitement turned into fear. In Shiaoyang, the Lunar New Year ended not with fireworks, but with a haunting reminder that even familiar rides can become deadly when control is lost in a single second. Number 6. The night the fireball broke apart. On July 26th, 2017, opening night at the Ohio State Fair was alive with color and sound. Carnival lights, flickered music pulsed through the air, and crowds gathered beneath one of the fair's most intimidating attractions, the fireball. A massive pendulum ride designed to swing riders 40 feet into the air while spinning them at high speed. Among those in line was 18-year-old Tyler Gerald, celebrating a new chapter in his life. Moments later, the fireball roared into motion. The pendulum climbed higher, with each swing the crowd watching as the red machine sliced through the night sky. Then, at 7:24 p.m., the impossible happened. A loud crack echoed across the fairgrounds. A full row of seats suddenly tore free from the arm of the ride. In an instant, riders were thrown outward as metal fragments flew through the air. Panic erupted below as people ran for cover, unsure of what had just fallen from the sky. Emergency crews rushed in, but the damage was already done. Tyler was killed instantly. 7 others were critically injured. Their lives changed forever. The fair shut down immediately as shock spread nationwide. Investigators later uncovered a hidden danger no routine inspection had detected. The fireball's central support beam was suffering from severe internal corrosion. Years of stress and moisture had weakened the steel from the inside, leaving it ready to fail without warning. The tragedy led to sweeping safety reforms and new inspection laws across the United States. But for those who witnessed that night, the memory remains burned in time, a moment when a ride built for excitement shattered mid-air, proving that even trusted machines can hide deadly flaws until it's too late. Number 7. 6 strangers in the rapids. In May 1987, Hershey Park unveiled a brand new attraction meant to be pure summer fun: Canyon River Rapids. It looked harmless: 6-person rafts, spinning current splashdowns, the kind of ride where the big risk was walking away drenched. Just 2 weeks after opening, that illusion shattered. A raft carrying 6 riders, 2 adults, and 4 kids entered the course like normal, bouncing through choppy water and tight turns. Halfway through the run, the current grabbed the raft at a bad angle. Witnesses saw it drift sideways into a wider stretch of the channel, where the water hit it unevenly. Then suddenly, the raft tipped. In one violent moment, all 6 riders were thrown into the moving water. What makes rapids rides feel safe is the belief that the water is controlled. But when you're in it, spinning, disoriented, fighting, to stay above the surface, control disappears fast. The current pulled them along as they struggled to keep their heads up, and for a few terrifying seconds, it wasn't a theme park anymore. It was a rescue scene. Operators and responders rushed in as riders tried to grab onto anything they could. All 6 survived, but not without consequences. Bruises, cuts, scrapes, and frightening, near-drowning moments that turned a family ride into a lasting memory of panic. Investigators later pointed to a dangerous mix: water speed, uneven weight distribution, and a design flaw in that wide section of the channel that allowed the raft to get pinned sideways and roll. Hershey Park shut the ride down immediately, modified the problem area, adjusted the water flow, and increased monitoring along the route. Because the scariest part isn't that the raft flipped, it's that this ride was marketed as safe enough to forget. And in a single heartbeat, forgetting became the most dangerous thing you could do. Number 8. The train that broke free. On July 20th, 2006, families lined up at Alton Towers for a ride that promised harmless fun. The Runaway Mine Train was one of the park's oldest attractions, loud, playful, and designed to feel out of control while staying perfectly safe. A coaster meant for parents and kids alike. But that afternoon, the illusion became reality. Carrying 46 passengers, the train slowly climbed its lift hill chain, rattling beneath it. Suddenly, without warning, a critical coupling snapped. The front cars detached from the rest of the train and began rolling backward, gaining speed as gravity took over. Inside the tunnel below, the remaining cars had nowhere to go. The runaway front section slammed violently into the rest of the train. The impact echoed through the structure, throwing riders forward in their seats. Screams filled the tunnel as metal collided with metal in the darkness. What was supposed to be a gentle family coaster became a crushing force of momentum and fear. Emergency crews rushed to the scene. 20 people were injured. 6 were taken to the hospital, 2 of them airlifted with serious spinal and internal injuries. Parents clutched their children, unsure if anyone had been killed. Somehow, no lives were lost, but the damage was severe enough to leave lasting trauma. Park officials called it an isolated incident, insisting the ride had no history of serious problems. But the public wasn't convinced. If a slow, family-friendly coaster could break apart mid-ride, what did that say about the bigger, faster attractions towering overhead? The Runaway Mine Train was shut down for investigation, and trust in the park was shaken. Because that day proved something unsettling: danger doesn't always come from extreme speed or massive drops. Sometimes it comes quietly, click by click, until one broken piece turns a playful ride into a full-blown disaster. Number 9. When the safety system became the threat. On June 25th, 2017, visitors packed Worlds of Wonder, ready for extreme thrills. One ride stood out above the rest: the Feedback. A high-intensity machine built to overwhelm the senses, spinning riders in multiple directions at once, relying entirely on shoulder restraints to keep them secure. As the ride launched into motion, everything seemed normal until the first inversion. Without warning, a man's shoulder harness snapped open. In a fraction of a second, he was thrown from his seat, slamming into a metal step below before tumbling into the bushes beneath the ride. The crowd froze, unsure if they had just witnessed a fatal fall. Miraculously, he survived with minor injuries. But the danger wasn't over. The ride did not stop. As it continued swinging at full force, a second restraint failed. Another rider began slipping from her seat, saved only because the person next to her grabbed and held on. For nearly 45 agonizing seconds, riders were trapped mid-air, praying the restraints would hold, while screams echoed from below. Witnesses later said a woman believed to be the first victim's wife begged operators to shut the ride down. No immediate action came. When the ride finally slowed and stopped, chaos erupted. Guests confronted staff, and one operator reportedly fled the scene. Park management later dismissed the incident as a technical fault, emphasizing that no one was seriously hurt. But a deeper issue surfaced. There were no strict national safety laws requiring inspections, audits, or transparent investigations. The ride had no true emergency brake, only a system that slowly reduced power. That day exposed a terrifying truth. When regulations are weak, even the devices meant to protect riders can become the greatest danger of all. Number 10. Killed by a ride that barely left the ground. On August 13, 2003, a warm summer evening settled over Six Flags New Orleans. For 52-year-old Rosa Donaldson, the park wasn't about thrills, it was about family. She had brought her 4-year-old grandson for a simple night of fun, smiling rides, and safe memories. Their next stop was Joker's Jukebox, a small spinning attraction, sitting just a few feet off the ground. Nothing fast, nothing extreme. The kind of ride parents don't think twice about. As her grandson was seated, Rosa noticed his harness wasn't secure. Acting on instinct, she stepped closer just inside the ride's restricted area to make sure he'd be safe. That single step changed everything. Without realizing Rosa was still there, the operator started the ride. The arms began to spin. One car struck her head, another slammed into her body. Witnesses screamed as she collapsed onto the platform, bleeding and motionless. The cheerful music stopped, replaced by panic. Paramedics rushed Rosa to the hospital, but the injuries were catastrophic. Her pelvis had been crushed. She died shortly after arrival. Investigators later confirmed the heartbreaking truth: Rosa wasn't reckless. She was protecting her grandson. But once the ride started, she had no time to escape. No warning. No safety buffer. The tragedy faded quietly from headlines, but the park itself would never recover. 2 years later, Hurricane Katrina flooded Six Flags New Orleans beyond repair. The gates closed forever, leaving the park abandoned, rusting rides, silent tracks, and one small spinner frozen in time. A reminder that sometimes the most dangerous rides aren't the tallest or fastest. Sometimes they're the ones that feel harmless until it's too late. Number 11. The day Tsunami came down. On June 26th, 2016, families filled M&D's theme park under clear summer skies. Towering above the park was Tsunami, Scotland's only inverted roller coaster. Riders dangled beneath the track legs, swinging freely as the train rushed through tight turns. It was marketed as intense but safe. That afternoon, safety vanished. As the coaster sped through a curve, a violent jolt ripped through the train. 5 cars suddenly detached, smashing into a support structure before plunging nearly 20 feet to the ground. The wreckage landed upside down, crashing into a children's ride below. Screams erupted across the park as twisted metal and shattered seats came to rest. Parents ran. Children cried. Survivors were trapped, hanging helplessly in their restraints as rescuers and bystanders fought to pull them free. 10 people were injured, 8 of them children. Several suffered serious trauma, including one 12-year-old girl with critical head injuries. What made the disaster even more chilling was that it wasn't the first warning. Years earlier, riders had been stranded high in the air after a lift chain failure. Other attractions in the park had broken down mid-ride. Red flags had been raised and ignored. Investigators later uncovered the truth. Tsunami had been repaired using the wrong welding material, a fatal shortcut that weakened the structure over time. The failure was not random, it was preventable. The ride was dismantled, leaving behind empty ground where screams once echoed. In 2019, park operators admitted to health and safety failures and were fined. But for those who witnessed Tsunami collapse, the memory remains permanent, a moment when gravity won, metal failed, and a thrill ride turned into a nightmare in seconds. Number 12. The stand-up experiment that turned deadly. In the summer of 1984, Six Flags St. Louis was testing the future of thrill rides. Instead of sitting down, riders were asked to stand up. The new attraction, called Railblazer, promised a revolutionary experience: high-speed, tight spirals, and nothing beneath your feet but open air. It was bold, experimental, and dangerously unproven. On July 9th, Stella Holcomb and her husband Carl boarded the ride, taking seats in the very last row. Their teenage daughter sat just ahead of them. As the train climbed and twisted through its second lift hill, the excitement peaked. Then the car jerked violently. In an instant, Stella was gone. Witnesses saw her body ripped from the train, hurled through the air, striking a tree before crashing to the ground below. Carl later said they had been holding hands when she was suddenly torn away, nearly pulling him out too. Panic swept through the park as the train continued on, unaware of what had just happened. Stella died later that day. When the train returned to the station, investigators were stunned. Every restraint on Stella's car appeared locked. Park officials suggested she may have fainted or slipped, but the autopsy showed no medical condition that could explain it. The darker truth began to emerge: the stand-up restraints could look secure while failing to actually hold a rider during extreme forces. Railblazer was shut down almost immediately. The stand-up cars were scrapped, and the track was converted back to a traditional seated coaster. The entire experiment ended in less than 3 weeks. Railblazer was meant to push the limits of thrill design. Instead, it exposed a terrifying reality: when innovation moves faster than safety, one violent jolt is all it takes to turn a bold idea into a fatal mistake. Number 13. Killed before the park opened. On the morning of August 30th, 1975, Beach Bend Park was still quiet. No music, no crowds, just maintenance crews preparing rides before the gates opened. Among them was Mark Gaines, a 17-year-old working a summer job, helping ready the Jetstar roller coaster for another day of thrills. For riders, Jetstar was fast and intense, a compact maze of sharp turns and sudden drops. For Mark, standing on the track during routine maintenance, that same speed was deadly. As he bent down to remove the blocks that held the coaster cars in place overnight, something went terribly wrong. Without warning, one of the cars unexpectedly rolled through the track. There was no announcement, no time to react. In a split second, the car struck Mark with full force. Co-workers rushed to his side, but the damage was catastrophic. He was transported to the hospital, where doctors could only pronounce him dead on arrival. The park hadn't even opened yet, but a life had already been lost. A state investigation later cleared the park of legal responsibility, ruling the incident an accident. Still, public fear spread quickly. How could a ride meant to deliver fun turn lethal before a single guest boarded? Beach Bend made a decision the report didn't require, but the public demanded. The Jetstar was closed permanently. Mark's death exposed a danger most guests never consider. Sometimes the riskiest moment isn't during the drop, the turn, or the scream. Sometimes it happens in silence before the ride even begins, when one unexpected movement turns routine work into a fatal mistake.